to Botch Goes to the Movies. I am your humble host, Philip D. Keating, and with me, as always, is Denny Lee Robinson. He who is piss. And joining us once again, the God-King himself, Shanda Panda.
Praise her.
Hello. It's been a long time.
We are reviewing the 2023 fantasy heist action comedy film, Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. This movie was directed by Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly. You might know those two for directing the Vacation reboot, the movie Game Night, and Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves.
Big Jim, we're not spoiling in the first part.
Yes.
This movie has such great actors as Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Regé Jean Page, Justin Smith, and Hugh Grant. This movie had a budget of $150 million, which I believe.
I believe it.
Yeah, just watching it. So, yeah, we just got out of the theater. We found it kind of disingenuous to the patrons and the people here in chat not to get right on stream and talk about what we saw. So the way that we're going to do this is we are going to start out on a two-half, obviously, review. We're going to talk about expectations going in, thoughts about the entire production, and then we'll have a break, and then we'll go into a complete spoiler atmosphere of the film. I will be honest with everybody here and everybody on chat and in the Patreon. I was not looking forward to going to this movie.
What, you?
Yes. Oh, wow, you're on a D&D podcast. I don't care.
I understand.
I don't enjoy listening to D&D podcasts. I don't enjoy Critical Role. I don't enjoy most of that shit. So I was really worried about coming in here and watching a 2-hour and 15-minute movie about Dungeons and Dragons. I was looking forward to monsters. I like monsters. I've always loved monsters. The Monster Manual is... I loved it.
Yeah.
Monsters are cool.
But actually sitting down to watch this was dreadful. But today is Dennis's birthday. Also, the God King himself blessed me with a golden ticket to see the cinemas.
I did.
Steven is up from the Grand South.
I crawled out of my swamp.
From the swamps.
Oh, damn.
And so I was obligated to go to this movie. And I quite enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed
I heard you
a lot
giggling
of
over there.
this. It's funny sitting through it because I really went in there as a staunch, meh, I don't like anything that comes to the cinema no more. Ain't nobody got any pizzazz or good ratings. I'm just sitting here waiting for the new Wes Anderson movie to come out. That's got a great. I love Wes Anderson. I ain't got time for this fantasy hubba lubba. Gosh darn hubba.
That's a terrible impression of me. How dare you?
Yeah.
Crawdads.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, I believe it. I believe it.
Jumpers.
Gosh darn, man.
345.
I really disgustingly enjoyed a movie that was. It was a lot better than it fucking should have been. It was a lot better than it should have been. Now, look, this is the third sequel that we've had since the original Dungeons and Dragons movie, and I'll tell you, in cinema past, the fourth movie to come out in a series is normally not that great. It's normally the worst, but somehow, in my own opinion,
Have you seen the original?
Dennis.
I don't feel like you have.
Dennis. No.
Okay. I just want to check.
It has Marlon Wayans.
It has.
Okay,
Jeremy
great.
Irons.
Was it great? Should I pull up?
It's great
Oh,
for the
Should I
wrong
pull up the
reasons.
budget?
If you
the
find a
box
copy,
office?
you should burn it.
Well, you should watch it first and then burn it.
By
But
burn it, you mean rip it and keep it forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For posterity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it really,
You don't want it
really
lost.
shouldn't have been this good, and it really was. And I read I didn't read reviews, but I watched the Thermometer to see where it was sitting.
One day you're gonna get that word right.
Comominator?
No,
Thermometer.
tomometer.
Oh, thermometer.
The thermometers.
And I was seeing all
Thermometer.
these reviews come in like
Michael
92,
Biehn.
95, 90, 89. And I was like, God damn. These can't be right. These are written by lunatics. And the great thing about this movie for me is that they tell you what kind of movie they are within the first 20 minutes of the movie. And you know going in, right, what kind of movie you're hitting into, which I enjoyed a lot. I've got more to say, but I want to throw it around the room. Dennis, you're the birthday boy. Talk about what your thoughts were about going in, what you were expecting, and what you walked out feeling.
When I first heard about the movie, I have seen the original, so I was like, okay. And then I watched the trailer, which I forget, it might have been the Super Bowl when they first had the first one, and I was intrigued. I was like, okay, this looks like they're not taking it overly seriously, and it's got, a lot of fun to it, because that's what the first movie doesn't have. There's no fun. So this definitely, in the trailer at least, looked like something that was supposed to be fun. And then, so I had hope going into the theater. And sitting in the theater and watching the movie, I will say that I was pleasantly surprised. It was a lot of fun. There was one thing we'll get to in spoilers that I thought was insanely predictable. But, it is what it is. For the most part, I just had a good time. I had a good time trying to pick out all the monsters from the monster manual and just going along for the ride. And I'll get more in details. We talk, I'm sure, in terms of how they set everything up, how this compares to how this succeeds where other films that are like it fail, that sort of thing. But overall, I just think it was a lot of fun, and I had a good time watching it. I highly recommend it.
That's wonderful. As a birthday boy, that makes my heart shine so much more. That God-King could bless you with such a wonderful time. God-King.
It was no barbarian.
Shut up.
Trash pan.
That movie's good. I
No,
like that movie.
The
But it had a
Barbarian's not that
barbarian.
great.
Well, we're still arguing about
Well,
that.
so yeah, we can talk about that in after the break. But Shannon,
Yeah.
you're the one who brought everybody together.
Yes.
What were your expectations? Where were your where was your mindset? You were really fucking down on you were all in.
I tell you what.
You were clit deep into this movie.
China clit deep.
Lipstick.
Well, I mean, the paladin kind of helps, but
She did lean over
yo,
and talk about how moist
yeah,
she was.
But
I'm with you.
I heard some audible dripping.
I
That was
it.
that was you got that in
For both
stereo
sides.
because it was both of us.
I thought it was the Folgers commercial coming on.
But Shannon, you're the one who graced everybody here with these tickets. You're really, this is what I want to do. These are the people I want to see it with. It's also Dennis's birthday, but also it's Dennis. Why?
I was sold on the film since I saw the panel in San Diego last year. I already knew it was going to be fantastic. Being a D&D fan and player myself, I felt like this was going to be the first time that a big budget film was going to do it right. And I think I was right. And the fact that you enjoyed, I'm so glad that you enjoyed it, because you were I don't want to be here. This is gonna be terrible.
It's every Monday.
I didn't realize that my mom was the horror of the town as Cartman was sitting down, two seats next to you. Is that what I sound like to you? I sound like Eric Cartman?
I couldn't tell who was talking.
Goddamn!
That's my best Phil impression.
It's
but
pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
it nails me.
Not nasally enough. I'll
Yeah.
say
I
that.
don't think I can pull.
You
Hold
need
on.
to breathe more into the microphone.
want to see this movie.
There it is.
not gonna be good.
Wes Anderson, Jason Schwartzman.
I don't know where one begins and the other ends.
But yeah, they actually showed us that clip that I now learned was recently added to a later trailer, the scene where they resurrected some of the dead guys. And right then, I already knew. I was like, this movie's going to be incredible.
So-
and I have been waiting. I've been counting down. My calendar was marked. I've been waiting.
and I'm happy for you that the payoff of your expectations was not only met, but just,
I feel like exceeded.
critically rolled on you. Steve, so we're going to get into our spoiler.
Back to Phil.
Steve, you came all the way up from Louisiana for this. Yeah.
I did. For this,
Specifically.
Just as you flew in.
They don't play it down there. We don't have movie theaters.
They don't serve alcohol.
No. We just tell stories around the campfire
old
while we
sheets.
fight the gators off and try to sleep.
That's right.
So I can say for me personally, I don't watch movie trailers. Once I get that first one out of the way, right, where it's like a teaser trailer, that's all I need, and I can kind of depict if I'm in or not.
Well,
So
go ahead.
you saw the original trailer,
I did.
and what kind of reaction did it?
I watched the original trailer with that fucking Zeppelin song. And,
Oh, yeah.
And I watched it, and I was like, look at this. Another cynical cash-in of what is popular at the time. I honestly did not really laugh at the trailer. I was like, this looks cynical and what would you call it?
Passe?
No, not passe. Unfaithful, and I don't like it.
Well, so like for me, watching that first trailer, same one with the Zeppelin music and all that shit. It was just like, holy fuck, could you be more fucking Big Bang Theory-esque feelings of just like, let's play D&D and here's a Doritos ad somewhere in the movie and let's listen to Zeppelin and
Well,
just
it reeked of
have the satanic panic of all this shit.
It reeked of the what a lot of people throw around the term Marvel humor these days, and it means different things to different people. But to me, what it means is humor that is in tonal clash with the material that it's inside of, and it kind of reeked of that to me. But I did not see the San Diego Comic-Con panel, but what I did see is when I was scrolling Twitter one day, I saw a clip from the scene that Shannon was talking about, a Speak with Dead scene, and somebody said this movie is going to be amazing, and I was like, all right, let me watch it, and I laughed my behind off at that. It was no longer than a 30-second clip, I'd say, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna give this a real honest chance, and I know anybody who knows me and anybody who has watched any of my material or heard any of my opinions on popular media might think that I don't give things a fair shot, but I do. I came into this giving it a little bit more than a fair shot. I was like, I'm not just going to give it a fair shot. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt.
That is true because he told me to bring a flask full of tequila, so there was multiple shots he was willing to give.
That's because I'm an alcoholic.
That's different. Yeah.
So here's what I will say.
Hi, B-Mal.
Love you.
As an overall feeling to this movie, this movie is not for everybody at all. It's made for a very specific kind of person, and that person is people that play D&D. No, and I'm going to argue with you on this, Dennis, because on the whole, if you're not savvy on how a table works, and you're not savvy on how a story in D&D is being told, this movie is fucking stupid. And the characters come off as fucking stupid. And the writing comes off as cliche and very stupid. But if you're putting it in the mind frame of, I am watching a campaign being told, and there are multiple characters playing their class, then this movie is fucking genius. And that's where I kind of fell into my comfort zone. Like, that's when I was like, and it was in the first 20 minutes where it's just like, oh, okay, we have a barbarian archetype, we have a roguish archetype, which
We'll talk about that.
we'll talk about it maybe being a multi-class into a bard, but like
It's a brogue.
well, but what I'm saying is, your characters are acting in stupid ways that if you don't realize that, like, okay, yes, their stats are in strength and con and lacking in intellect and wisdom, or if you're a paladin and you put into wisdom and not intelligence, like, your characters, if you don't know that going in, it looks hacky that they're acting the way that they are. But if you have that base knowledge of D&D and character building, this movie is fucking genius. And it's so hard for me to recommend this movie. And that was the first thing I did. When I got out of the theater, after taking a 45-minute piss, I called Morgan, and she was like, hey, man, how was your movie? And I was like, I regretfully hate how good this movie is. And you will fucking not understand it, not because you're not intelligent, but you will think that this is the hokiest, most ridiculous, unbelievable shit possible because you don't play Dungeons and Dragons.
I want to disagree with you.
That's fine, and we can talk about that. But once I had my mind wrapped around that like everybody is playing the role perfectly, it was just literally sit back. I wish I could put my feet up, but there was somebody in front of me and enjoy the fucking ridiculousness. Let me hear your counterpoint on that, Dan.
So I actually think this movie works on two separate levels. I think this movie works for general audiences. And what I mean by that is, if you compare this to a movie like John Carter, I think it was just called John Carter, right?
Really bad start comparison, bud, but continue.
No. But what I mean is,
No.
John Carter got really into the lore and gave you a ton of backstory and expected you to remember a ton of names and all this stuff.
Who doesn't know Edgar Rice Burroughs?
Exactly. So this movie didn't do that. It gave you some...
I love Hannibal Buress. He's hilarious.
It gave you some names and some backstory, but didn't really stay in those weeds for very long. It just kept moving along, which is what general audiences need. They like the carrot on the stick. You just need to keep it moving from point A to point B, keep things colorful, keep things fun, and that's what this movie did. On a deeper level, if you are a D&D fan, you will get way more out of it because, as you were saying, you understand that each class has different stats, and so, like, each of the characters is playing to the stats, and there's also all the monsters and all the other stuff. So I think this does work in that it is a dumb enough movie if you don't know any better for general audiences, but it's also not that dumb if you are a D&D fan because you understand all the nuances.
I'd also like to say that I've noticed that a lot more people are giving Dungeons and Dragons as a game, like trying to find a group and play at a table or try. So I think that the audience out there is much larger than it was.
Oh, 5e has made it more popular than it's ever been.
Oh, well,
Schools
I mean,
literally
come
have
on.
after-school programs
Guys,
to play D&D.
5e is wonderful, but we also have to give it up for
Pathfinder, a couple
Stranger Things.
What?
I mean,
True,
once Stranger
true.
Things happened...
Stranger Things, Critical Role.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Well, in if I may, I'm somewhere between you guys because I think that this was made for D&D players, D&D fans. There are so many little nuances of character. I got the distinct feeling that this is the first few sessions, the first leg of a first seat at the table for all these people, right? Maybe an experienced dungeon master, but all these players are kind of playing into very, very boxy archetypes. And by the end, they have opened up and become full characters. And just the little flaws, and I'm not just talking about flaws in a character writing sense, but I'm talking about flaws on the character sheet. This is my critical flaw, right?
My dump stat.
This is my dump stat. Oh, that guy just rolled an out one. But they definitely try to give a leg up and help to general audiences. What's that? Oh, it's this. Oh, how did this happen? Oh, it happened this way. These little hints and explanations. I think if they wanted to make it for general audiences, they would have gone a little bit more in the explanation, or they might have gotten rid of a lot of the little nuances and character moments and little fun stuff that is a wink and a nod to the D&D players. But I think they started from let's make this for D&D players and let's broaden it a little bit to make it for general audiences. So I'm somewhere between you Phil, and you Dennis on my opinion on who this was made for. But I loved it. I had a really good time.
I'm not even saying it was made for one or the other. I'm just saying it works for both.
I think you're right. I think it works I think it works better. Not just in a you'll get more out of it, but I think it on a basic level works better for people who understand Dungeons and Dragons and understand sitting at a table.
Absolutely.
They just needed to make it so that a general, like just some rando who just likes to go to the movies could follow it and have a good time.
Oh, no. I'm not disagreeing with you at all with that. But what I'm saying is if I'm really looking at these character archetypes and I don't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons and classes and all that, some of the decisions or the outbursts or stuff like that just seem ridiculous.
Sure.
And it kind of takes away from the situations that are going on. Now look, we can get deeper into it once we get through the break.
Sure.
But I'm just saying,
I'm thinking of it from the perspective of like, if my dad watched this movie. I've watched many movies with my dad who chuckles at the lowest of hanging fruit.
Flute.
And
flutes.
And flutes. He loves flutes.
He loves flutes.
You know what? Jazz flute lover right there. And I think he would have no problem following the movie and laughing at all of the jokes that are in the movie. And then at the end of it, he'd be like, "Yeah, it was fun," and then just move on to his day.
Following the story, you're just literally taking the fucking hero's journey and, following it to a T.
That's most things. I mean, it's very hard not to fall into the general like that story. That basis for a story is like 90% of movies, I feel like.
Well, it works.
You got to put the 10% in and see those Wes Anderson movies. I mean, you'll know what I'm talking about.
But if I could make another comparison, liken it to Dune. And if you've seen Dune and you haven't read Dune, and I'm talking not about the 1984 disaster.
No, the only Dune.
Tell me of the water of your homelands, Muad'Dib.
Yeah, I'm talking about in the book it's Usul, but that's fine. If you saw Denis Villeneuve's Dune a couple years ago, or it was last year, I don't know. It came out.
I think it was a couple years ago.
And you've never read the book, you might have been like, wait a minute, what the hell happened here? I loved it, but I have a foundation of knowledge on the source material to fall back on to fill in those gaps. And I think there might have been some of those moments for general audiences.
Sure.
I think there's still a whole lot of meat and a whole lot of fun character moments and a lot of effort for explanation for general audiences that can still make it a very fun movie for them.
Yeah. Like they didn't do that. Here was one thing that I was wondering if they would do in the movie. They never really do it, which is like calling out that the moves that they're doing. Like I was like, if she's a barbarian, is she gonna like, I don't know, do something that's obviously enraging? Nah, she didn't really do that. Okay. Or like, would the bard do a bard thing, like cast a bard spell, or would they cast a specific spell for the sorcerers or whatever?
We'll get into that in spoilers.
Wild shape they did call out. But other than that, they didn't really do that in the movie, so I feel like they just
I disagree. There's a few times.
There's a few times that things are called out.
And we'll get into that in spoilers for sure.
So
well, what I was going to say was,
exactly.
So before we get to the parts with the spoilers, I'm going to say I think the general consensus is it's 2 thumbs up, and whether you play D&D or not, you should go see the movie
do we want to do a
you're
score?
going to have a good time.
Yeah, let's do
not yet, actually, because there's a couple things I want to ask before we get into scoring and all that other razzmatazz. But
well, can we do a basic? Would you recommend this movie?
Yeah, would you, Steve?
And, I would definitely. If you are a D&D fan, I would absolutely recommend this movie. Maybe the second best after Monsters and Mazes. That was a joke. Please don't watch that movie. It's ridiculous. But no. If you are a D&D fan, absolutely go watch this movie. It's a lot of fun. As a guy who's cynical about media and even has some objective problems with the film, I had so much fun watching it. Go see it. And if you're not a D&D fan, go see it anyway. I want more
What
of these.
score would you
Yeah,
give?
help him so we can get
You
another
said
one.
no. Recommend. You said no score.
Score it.
No.
No,
it makes
get,
sense to do
Get the
score
cat
now.
keyboard out
Well,
and
what's
score
the
it.
what's our
0 to
ranking?
Write a
10.
score.
0
you
to
know
10?
0 to 10, no.
No.
points.
You don't get to choose.
It's my birthday.
It's not for much longer.
Still is.
The obvious
It's a-
score is the obvious
A 1
score
to
scale is
20.
1 to 20.
Yeah, it's 1 to 20.
Clearly.
You fucking idiots.
All right, fine.
Wait, am I scoring this?
No,
you
you
know
have
what?
to
That worked
roll,
out
and
well.
that's your score.
I just rolled a d20. I actually agree with the score, so I rolled a 17.
Okay, you can roll the score, and see if you agree or disagree with the score.
Yeah,
Okay,
I agree with
Amy.
that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
funny.
I was gonna go 8 out of 10, but since we're doing 20, 17 out of 20. Yeah, that's good. I'll take it 17 out of 20.
Do another one. 'cause
Not
Go ahead.
perfect, but
No,
great.
no, roll your score and take your score and say whether you agree with it or disagree.
I don't agree
what
with
do I
the
add to
12 that I just rolled.
I rolled a 9. I absolutely do not agree with it.
And I rolled an 8. I don't agree with that either.
Cool.
Right. I'm the only one that did.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, I think that's where we're gonna call it on this first half
dumb.
of the episode. We're gonna take a quick break, and on the second half, we're gonna get into the nitty gritty and the details, spoiler land. If you're listening to this now and you haven't seen it, fucking hit pause. What are you doing?
Or if you're watching
Go
it
see
on
it.
another platform, if you're watching us in a video and you don't want spoilers, please do not watch after this point. We don't want to spoil the movie for you.
Yeah, no. Watch it in the theater. Pause right
Yeah.
before it starts, and then as you're
Yeah.
done, hit play.
When the credits roll, press play and say, "Hey, everybody, I'm watching
Listen.
Botched
Botched.
Podcast review."
Watch podcast.
Botched Podcast at
Watch podcast.
AOL.com.
Yes.
Bah.
Podcast.
Bah.
All right, so
We're still on.
I fucking
Yeah. We don't
was
actually-
not looking forward to having Chris Pine as the lead. He is the worst of all the Chris's,
Not true.
and he fucking nailed this role.
Yeah.
He was
God damn!
I really liked him.
As the roguish archetype, fucking swindler, thief. God damn, does he fucking nail it?
I love the lute playing. Oh my god, I love
God
the lute
damn.
playing.
So is he?
Can I
is he-
say something?
Yeah,
real
well, I
quick?
got a question. Is he a multi-class bard, or is he just a
He's
rogue
a
with a lute?
bard who they
Nope.
just didn't give him any spells.
I disagree. He is a mastermind rogue. He is a mastermind rogue. That is absolutely his class.
Okay.
He plays a lute. He has proficiency.
It's not gonna be in the book.
because his background is entertainer.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That is what it is.
Okay. Yeah, because everybody saw that lute and assumed this is gonna be a bard.
I 100% assumed that he was going to be a bard
Which
and
I
he was going to be
kinda
casting
hoping it
vicious
was gonna
mockery.
be a
I didn't feel like he sang well enough to be a bard.
I think he
I think he sings just fine as a
I've
guy who
seen-
sings just fine.
I've seen plenty of
it
worse
was
singing
okay.
in movies.
It wouldn't swoon me to take my pants off.
That's because you were just all
So-
wet for the paladin.
Very true.
So I mean, the only reason that I'm
drenched.
arguing that he is a bardish fucking archetype is that because he not only he's a jack of all trades, man.
But rogues are not a DPS class. They're a utility class. They are in 5e at least. They're absolutely a utility class.
Although, he did attack with that lute a lot.
Like twice.
Okay, but that's an
all
improvised
he
weapon.
attacked
So hold
with.
on.
That's all he had.
What
He had swords and daggers.
what edition are we in with this movie? What do you guys
Look,
think?
I think we have to look at it from the success of 5th edition. That is what got
Yeah.
this movie made. This is a 5th edition game
I
didn't
agree.
see any
with a little bit of
monsters.
homebrew.
I didn't see any monsters that existed outside of 5th edition. Because there are some that only exist in 2 or 3 or 4. I didn't see anything that didn't exist in 5.
Yeah, this is 5th edition home setting Forgotten Realms Faerun.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, they called out things like Baldur's Gate,
Oh my
Water
God.
deep.
Waterdeep, Neverwinter.
So look,
The Underdark.
The
not only that,
Underdark.
but this is how you do fucking fan service.
Yeah.
This is how you fucking do fan service.
Yeah.
Working
There
on
is
the
no
story.
reason that the Dungeons and Dragons movie can out fucking fan service anything that Disney is producing.
Right.
It's disgusting. It's shameful. This movie has no right to being as fucking good as it is. Right? It has no right. And it comes through with those fucking minor hints of towns that we know, spells that are in the fucking spell book, wizards not knowing how to play their fucking class. These are the subtle touches that make fucking magic.
Guys, you can't
It's
solve everything with magic.
insane.
Absolutely.
It's fucking insane.
No, so I mean, do you want to do like a brief run through of the movie?
Sure.
Sure,
So,
Steve.
So we
Take
start
it.
out. We start out. Chris Pine. Well, actually, no. We start out with a Skyrim opening of guards bringing a cart full of prisoners to prison, and a strong Nordic man says, "Oh, you're awake."
You're awake.
Okay, no, we don't go that far, but it is a cold land, and there's a cart of prisoners being brought in, and we see a large half-orc prisoner being brought into the prison, and he's brought to the cell.
Full orc.
I
Yeah, I was
That's a
thinking
big
full orc.
motherfucker. That's probably an orc.
very possibly. Either way, he's a big, ugly dude. He's obviously done some bad shit. He's brought up to the cell where we find our two main heroes, Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez. Who, by the way, Michelle Rodriguez, you finally did it. You made a movie that wasn't
Fucking standing out.
She was
Standing.
killing
She's
it.
well, no. Let me clarify. I've never watched Michelle Rodriguez and thought she was horrible or a bad actor, but she made a movie that was really good, and she did a great job in it, and I loved
She
her.
was in a Nouveau Bowl movie.
And she made me cry a little bit. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
I teared up. Anyway, but we're
You talk
brought
at the end?
this big ugly guy's brought into the cell. Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez are rogue mastermind, or some might say bard. You're wrong. And our barbarian, some might say fighter. You're wrong.
Definitely fine.
I mean,
Are in there,
she did put on armor and a shield.
and we'll talk about that. Now, the bard, or the big ugly guy, immediately gets sweet on Michelle Rodriguez and starts to do some really triggering things.
I'd like to note that she was enjoying her potato.
And
She
we
loves
are
potatoes.
immediately introduced to a very fun character quirk that is very consistent with the table, right? She's eating her little potato.
Loves potatoes.
She's Irish.
Chris Pine says she doesn't like to be interrupted when she's eating her potatoes. And this big orc guy interrupts her, okay? And she just breaks his legs. She
Not only
breaks his
that-
legs, and
She breaks both knees.
yep.
like
She
out
kneecaps
From the
him.
inside out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But from that, we learn that they're about to go up for their parole hearing, and they're expecting a certain counselor to be at the parole hearing. He's not there when they walk in. Oh, shoot.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I thought this was a brilliant way to do backstory, by
Yeah.
the way.
Well, the entire movie.
But, like, the way they introduce these characters to give you Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez's backstory, I thought that was a really fun way to
Yes,
do it.
The initial introduction to them
Yes.
through this other character is very, very good. After that, where Chris Pine now has the mechanical, the what diegetic narrative device of explaining his backstory to this parole board.
And how they ended up in
And it
jail.
lasts like 15 minutes, and it's so.
But no. Fuck you, because
That was fun.
who has it was not.
I
But
felt like it was a slog.
No, it was
I
most
enjoyed it.
certainly a slog, and this is why I'm for it. Because
He's
who
trying to kill
hasn't
time.
been there where
With the
everybody
backstory.
at the
I
fucking
completely
table
agree.
Yeah.
has done a 5 to 10 second backstory on a character they just rolled, and then you have fucking Kevin.
Steve, you were going to say Steve.
It is
Who-
a slogging session zero.
Has a fucking
Yeah,
5 to
Kevin.
15-minute backstory on how he got to this fucking moment. And, like, at that moment, that is where I hit my change on this movie, where it's
Really?
just like, yes, this is perfect. Because I don't need this long backstory, and they're drawing this backstory out to the point where I'm getting angry as the barbarian knowing that I don't care. I don't care about your fucking dead wife. I don't care about your lost daughter. I don't care about any of this. And that's where I knew the tone of the movie was set. That we are sitting above, like Westworld, watching this story be unfold in front of us and just eating popcorn as we're watching a D&D campaign live.
Well, and you also get in this backstory that they have done their research at very least cursorily, but I think they've done their research. I think the people who wrote this are familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, in a way that's more than just I read a couple source books, because Chris Pine's character says I was a member of the Harpers, which is a
Clan?
Not a clan or an
thieves
organization.
guild?
Organization,
They're a
I'd say.
benevolent assassin slash rogue organization that they're a spy network that helps people benevolently, and they don't ask for anything in return. They don't ask for immediate payment or anything. They try to make the world better as it is. And Chris Pine says, "Well, man, I really want to give a better life to my family, and this just isn't doing it. This just isn't doing it." And he steals from the wrong people, and they come back and they kill his wife
And set his house on fire.
Yep. And after that, his infant daughter and him. Well, they're having a rough time, but then Michelle Rodriguez shows up. She helps Chris Pine get back on his feet and raise his daughter. They become sort of a family together, in a very platonic way between Michelle Rodriguez and Chris Pine, and they start stealing stuff to make their lives better. But it all goes wrong.
And we're still in the prison.
And we're still in the prison?
This story is still being told.
Oh, maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe we should skip a little bit ahead. So, what does everybody think? Okay, I think we've already said what we already think about the setup, right? Like, you agree it's a slog. Shannon, what did you think? Because I was honestly rolling my eyes like, okay, get on with it. I literally like made this motion in the theater.
I guess I'm the only one of the group that I was enjoying the backstory.
I liked it.
I
said I liked it.
I like knowing where the characters are coming from. It gets you a little more invested in Chris Pine, right? Like, you don't want to start a movie and you're like, it's like when I played Grand Theft Auto 5 and I was like, I don't care about these characters. Why do I care about these characters? I don't, so I didn't keep playing. And I would feel the same way about this movie. If they didn't do the backstory and get you a little invested in Chris Pine's character, then you're not going to want to watch it.
Well, I mean, I'm going to disagree with you because we still have people that listen to our podcast.
It's true.
That's because they like you as people.
And we're motor hobo.
Yeah.
We are murder hobos. Well, you're murder hobos.
I don't think it was the background, that the fact that they were giving background, and I really liked the diegetic device of him telling his backstory to the parole board. It's not an "as you all know" thing, like which is the horrible line you don't want to hear when hearing backstory. I think it was that it lasted so long. I think they didn't use their time efficiently. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I decided to do just a little bit of research while we were talking about this, and I'm sorry, but the writers say that Chris Pine is a bard.
Wow.
Wow, I fucking called it
Interesting.
in theater, my
Okay.
dude.
Yeah, I'm really I kind of wanted
spells.
to back up where
Hell yeah.
I distinctly remember in the panel at San Diego that they were talking about how they themselves are hardcore D&D fans and they wanted to do it right by the fans. And so right here, Goldstein says, we did try very hard to be true to the rules. The only thing we really went away from were rest periods because those aren't fun on screen.
Well,
And it says well, hold on, sorry.
I'm sorry.
And then he
Yeah, go
says,
ahead.
they were talking about the use of spells, and they feel like they did a really good job. And they said, but the hardcore fans might be questioning why the party's upbeat face character, Chris Pine as Edgin the Bard, doesn't use magic himself.
Okay.
Bards in D&D aren't just singers, they're spellcasters with a wide range of abilities, but you
Correct.
wouldn't know it from the film.
He's
And
from the College of Valor. Continue.
They said they didn't want everyone in the party to be overpowered.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and that's another thing. You have a really good balance. You have 2 spellcasters. You have a wild magic sorcerer, which is fantastic, and a druid, and then you have I would you know what? I'll disagree with the writers. I'm a big believer in death of the author. Doesn't matter what the fuck they said. They wrote a rogue. They wrote a mastermind rogue. He doesn't cast a single spell. That's fine. That they think. And narratively, I agree with them. I wouldn't want 3 super powerful spellcasters, and it would be weird. He's a rogue. He's a rogue with an entertainer background.
What's a rogue but a bard persevering?
Exactly. Correct. I couldn't have said it better myself, and I probably wouldn't have. And then we have our 4th character, our barbarian, or do they call her a fighter?
Let me see if I can find it. You
like
can
it's a
keep
fighter.
talking.
I think you go either way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
My thing is when they get out
the
of prison
brawler feat.
and they make it back to the guy who has betrayed them, the former member of their party who betrayed them,
That
and
guy's
is
a
now
rogue.
the master of Waterdeep, and they get into his chambers, and he betrays them, and they sink into the floor because the evil wizard that was also a part of the party has betrayed them, and has sunk them into the floor, and she screams as loud as she can. And oh my God, can we talk about Hugh Grant as a villain for a
he
second?
was
Because he
incredible.
looks at her, he goes, "Oh!" Hugh Grant was such an amazing cast for the secondary villain of this film.
The only person that could be better cast for that role would be Jeff Goldblum, and we already spent so much money on the budget,
Yeah.
and he played that same role almost in
True.
Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, I think though. I think Hugh Grant is better for it
I
though,
agree. Yeah,
he's a
because
little more
Jeff Goldblum's too likable.
Yeah.
He's
Also.
too likable.
And there was that swarminess of like, oh yes,
Oh yeah.
yes, I'm getting away with everything.
I think Hugh Grant nailed it. I
No,
think it's great.
and what a strange role for Hugh Grant to take.
Hey man, I'm happy
But-
you did.
Not as strange as that pre-movie ad that says we're all heroes.
Well, I mean, let's not. We're way past. We're like
I know.
45.
I
minutes
am a
past.
hero.
Yeah, but Hugh Grant looked like he was so checked out of that whole fucking thing.
Well, I mean, Dennis, wouldn't you be?
Yes.
But after that, you have your setup. You have your goal, right? You have your 2 players that have started, and they have to go recover their old party members, maybe make a new one, and get your main character's daughter back, and steal all the gold in the process. It's a classic heist setup for a campaign, revenge, and making things right.
Take that, Solo.
Yeah.
Oh, you're by yourself? Han Solo. We needed to know what your name was beyond the fact that it's your name. Anyway, that's all right. We don't have to get started on Star Wars. Shannon, you have more information?
No, but I do like here where Goldstein also says that he himself used to play Dungeons and Dragons, and his campaigns were so long ago that he didn't remember the specifics, except there were a lot of gelatinous cubes.
Well, so hold on. I
Which
mean,
is very true. My campaigns always had a lot of gelatinous
I want to
cubes.
get into party dynamic, but we're still not there yet
Well-
because
Still going through the plot.
we're building a party, right?
Right.
We're on the road.
We got to get our sorcerer back.
Yes.
We got to get our wizard. We're 2 definite melee non-magic users,
All martial class right now.
and we got to get the top wizard, the head wizard in charge.
We're the only one we know.
You need magic for magic.
Keep saying wizard. He's a sorcerer.
He's a sorcerer.
He is a sorcerer.
He uses
Debatable.
wild magic.
So wizards study for their magic. Sorcerers are born with it.
I don't play casters,
Anyway,
but I'm
that's
playing
true.
a caster right now.
But our reintroduction to our sorcerer, who is described as a terrible sorcerer, is fantastic. He's definitely, and tell me if I'm wrong, he's a charlatan background. He is conning the people in Tribor, which is if you're a D&D player, you're familiar with Forgotten Realms, you'll know Tribor. It's a famous crossroads town of trade. And the site of one of the starting campaigns in 5th edition, I believe. But he's tricking people out of their money by showing them horrible tricks and having them boo him while he uses his real magic to
He grips the
pickpocket
shit
them.
out of them.
But it all goes wrong because Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez show up, and he loses his concentration. They come after him, and his sorcerer wild magic activates. And this is where I'm disagreeing with you, Dennis, on the mechanical things that they show. They immediately show wild magic.
They show it, but he doesn't.
But no,
He
said it was wild.
explicitly
Yes,
says it later.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
Sure.
they
Yes,
said
he did.
it's
In
wild
this
magic.
scene, the
said
spell
outside of some
reverse
spells.
gravity happens, and they explicitly say that later too.
Yeah, when Pine is defending him and telling him that he's actually a really good caster, and he says you flipped an entire theater, and the druid looks at him and says, "You did?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, but it was my wild magic."
Sure.
He called it.
But like in other scenes where there's like a magic fight, they're not saying every spell out loud while they cast it.
Well, gosh, could you imagine that?
Exactly.
That'd be ridiculous.
That's
Lightning
what I
bolt,
mean.
lightning bolt, lightning bolt.
Moonfire,
Sleep.
moonfire,
I'm
moonfire,
gonna hit this
moonfire.
guy with my
No,
axe,
he
and then
doesn't-
I'm
Yeah,
gonna do a
we're
backflip.
not fucking LARPers, Dennis.
Yeah.
We're
I know.
watching a
I'm
goddamn
just saying
D&D movie.
They didn't do that.
That would be so
He
weird.
does
wouldn't
do
put it
verbal
past
and
him.
somatic
Yeah, but-
incantations, though.
Yes.
He
But-
moves
but
his hands and he
also-
says
yeah.
words.
Yes, but also like
In a
my
shittier
character,
movie, they would
Dennis,
do
when
that.
my character, when they're casting a spell, even though I'm communicating with you, the god in this world, I'm not saying out loud, "I need to cast Cloud of Daggers."
But I don't want to.
But I want you to know exactly where I'm casting Cloud of Daggers. In the world, it just happens.
I just want to say we're rapidly approaching an hour, and you haven't even made it to the sorcerer taking
fine.
us to meet our
People
final.
love long form
All
content.
right. Okay. Okay, we're not on time limit.
I
Okay.
appreciate you.
All right.
We're
'Cause
doing great.
We haven't even gotten to our fourth party member.
You love long form content. You'll continue to consume.
Don't go anywhere.
Eat our
I'm just not
mouths.
gonna go
Eat our
sleep.
words.
You don't need to.
Yeah, I feel
Why don't you just stay up
just
until your
stay up.
flight?
Make Morgan drive.
That's what I would do.
Well, after we recover our sorcerer and they run out of Tribor, with pitchforks and torches following them, they say, "We need to get into that castle in Neverwinter and see what's happening." And they say, "You know what? We really need a wild shaper. We need a druid." So they go and find a druid that our sorcerer was dating, who's a member of the Emerald Enclave.
Whoa. Dating is a stretch.
He was courting.
He attempted-
Courting.
he
As it said in the
attempted to
film.
Attempt to court.
Attempted.
And they go to
You make me
an
sad.
execution.
Excuse me, objection.
Correct.
Attempt of court.
Attempt of court. Well, they go to an execution, and a druid member of the Emerald Enclave, who, again, if you're familiar with the Forgotten Realms setting, you'll be familiar with the Emerald Enclave, who is kind of a Greenpeace on steroids faction in Forgotten Realms. And a druid is being executed, and they say, "Oh, well, she's about to die." Oh, that's not her. And the horse under the guard shifts into an owl bear.
Oh, that was incredible.
Which people were getting mad. Druids can't shift into owl bears, which is,
I was wondering about
it's
that.
true. Also,
it was
who
so
cares? It's
cool.
fun.
It was
It's
so
fun.
cool.
And
OP
she
as fuck.
absolutely fucks up.
Yeah, my
all the
boner
guards.
didn't care.
Yeah.
It was great. But now we have our party. We have our full party, right? We have our mastermind rogue, not a bard. We have our barbarian, not a fighter. We have our druid and our wild magic sorcerer, and we're ready to go on our campaign.
And like a normal campaign, nobody's a fucking healer.
No healers.
That's true.
We're just gonna punch and spell our way through
Yep.
this shit.
Then we use our wild magic, our wild shaped druid to get into the castle and find out what we need to do to get into the vault to steal the stuff, right? And we have a wonderful scene where the wizard, the evil wizard that betrayed the party, explains the lock on the vault, and she just says, "It's protected by a very powerful spell."
I shit my pants.
That's it.
I shit.
Hugh
like,
Grant blanks a couple times. Like, well,
literally, the theater did not laugh except for
It's so
me,
funny.
and I double grip Steve like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, because I've had moments at a table where it's just like, I detect magic. Okay, yeah,
Then
it's very powerful magic.
and the powerful wizard detects our wild shaped druid and says there's a wild shape nearby.
Yep.
and the fly on the chandelier starts to run. And we get an actually really wonderful sequence of our druid running and shifting into, and she like shifts into an armor and tries to impersonate a guard. She gets called out. She shifts back into a mouse, runs through the castle, jumps off the castle, shifts into a hawk, flies, gets shot with an arrow, falls into a chimney, shifts into a cat, and rubs it off. Shifts back into herself, and then is out in the courtyard. And this is where I have my first big problem, because when she gets into the courtyard, it's about 2 minutes of this sequence of her running, and she's out. And in this 2 minutes, the wizard has managed to get onto her horse, ride her horse all the way down into a square, and I found the person I was chasing immediately.
She's
can, like,
capable to
teleport.
teleport.
Right. Is she capable to teleport her horse?
Sure, why not?
Is
We
it
don't know.
shown?
Powerful wizard.
Yeah,
Is
we
it
don't know.
shown? You
don't
got to
need
show me.
show.
You got to set
Tell.
this up.
Show, don't tell.
But it looked like she was just chilling, riding her horse, and it's like, hey, that's her. But it all in all, it's a very lovely sequence. She gets out, and now we have, here's what we need, here's what we're up against, and now we have to figure out how to get past it.
That
right?
chase was amazing.
It was really, really cool sequence.
was
I
amazing.
really liked it. I've got a couple plot problems with it, but I really enjoyed it. I did.
It was fun.
And now they know they need to go get a special helm to dispel the spell on the vault, because they're not powerful enough to do it. So they have to go find the spell, and that leads them back to the barbarian's village from which she was banished, where we
man.
meet her former lover, Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
Very famously
gnome?
tall man, Bradley Cooper.
As a gnome?
He was playing a halfling.
He was playing halfling.
Okay, all right.
Gnomes would be too pointy.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Halfling. God, he was. It was so funny to see him as a halfling.
It was wonderful. I loved it.
No,
I have a side question though.
yeah.
What was the race of the other chick? Were we thinking Goliath?
Which chick?
His new side piece.
Yeah,
or
his new lady.
No, I
main
think they're
piece.
both humans. I
They're-
think just seeing them next to him, I think they're
Yeah.
both
Oh,
humans.
because the other one that came in looked like she was even bigger.
She
than
was bigger,
Michelle
but I
Rodriguez.
think she was still a human.
Okay.
She's still a human, because you got to look at the orc or the half orc that came into the prison that was kind of towering over her a little bit.
That's why I was thinking maybe
she's
a Goliath.
I think she was just a big
Goliath's
muscle mommy human.
big.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was very
She was
large.
she was snoo snoo lady.
Snooze.
Yeah, very
Death by
large.
snoo snoo.
Snooze.
And then
This movie is so stupid. Do you hear yourself?
it's wonderful. Now I have a
For
problem here.
multiple, not just D&D people.
Are you into little people? You love
well,
this movie.
I do have a plot problem in this scene, and she says, "Oh, you kept the walking stick I gave to you," and he says, "Yes, you can take it with you," and she does. She takes the walking stick with her. That's a special tool we'll need later, as Mickey would say.
Foreshadowing.
But they get into the scene that really brought me into an acceptance of this, and definitely
It sold it for me.
sold Shannon on it as well. The speak with dead scene, and
Yes.
you.
It's so true to what would happen.
It's so,
if you
I
were
was
at
like,
a
these
funeral.
are
arbitrary.
people. This is what made me think these are people who understand what D&D is like, because they raise the dead to find the helm, and immediately they ask the questions.
Well, before that, they even say like 5 questions seems awful arbitrary.
5 questions. Yeah. what is a question? What does that mean? And so they raise the dead. Did you die in the famous battle where the helm was lost? Yes. Chris Pine looks back at his party. He's like, "What? It's 5 questions total?" The dead body says, "Yes." Whoa, no, wait. And they just keep asking questions. So they that's the only one they use, but they keep going through a series of speak with dead, and everyone dies in a more ridiculous way. So they have to find a way through, right? Navigate all these deaths to find the information they really need.
Sven and Ven.
And it is so, I agree, Shane, it's so perfect to what would actually happen, is finding this puzzle of this death, right?
And Chris Pine's character being like, he doesn't have the answers for me, and walking away. And then it was the sorcerer, right? He's like, are you just gonna? You need to ask him another question. You can't just leave him like that.
And he's like, I'm still alive.
Yeah.
Just leave him sitting there upright. Like, just ask one more question.
Yeah.
That's exactly what
He's
would
like,
happen. You'd be like, oh, you're
what's
useless.
your favorite
Look,
color?
moving on.
Do you like cats? Not really.
Yeah.
But then we know where we need to go, right? We need to find the paladin.
Bring in the paladin.
We need to find the paladin that swore on his oath.
The humidity
The oath
rose.
keeper.
His oath. He is an oath keeper paladin. 100%.
Yes,
He
100%.
swore to keep this special magical helm
with a
safe from
very low
with his
charisma
life.
score.
Very low charisma.
Which doesn't
He
make
is
sense.
high wisdom, low charisma.
Isn't
Yeah.
charisma
Low
supposed to be-
charisma, low intelligence.
Right.
But
Oh, super high on the martial
Well,
stats.
wait, Dennis, are you going to argue that because he's attractive that his charisma would be high?
No. I thought charisma was supposed to be one of the stats that is favorable to paladins. Like,
Well,
that's one of the
charisma
things they
is
should
their
go
spell
for.
casting stat,
Yeah.
but we don't really see him cast
That's
any
fair, he
spells.
doesn't
Except
True.
we do see his detect good and evil skill in it, which is wonderful to see. In a more mechanically fluid sense, that is kind of a passive thing,
No.
right? He can smell the evil.
he
in
can
the air.
sense evil.
Right. Yeah. In through all of his senses, including his olfactory glands.
Yeah.
But they meet the paladin. The paladin
It's fucking sexy.
He
Oh
is.
my
He's
God.
a sexy man.
Man, I would let that dude do terrible things to me and
It's
then live tweet it.
Not my type.
That's fine.
But what does he say? What's interesting is Chris Pine, who's
Pulls an animatronic
who's
cat
left
out of
his
a fish.
oath as a harper to help people without asking anything. What does he say to Chris Pine? It's very interesting.
You like hot dogs?
Well,
Oh, you're talking about you may have forgotten your oath or, forsaken your oath, but it has not forsaken you.
which is a wonderful callback to the 1997 movie. What was it called with Janine Garofalo, the superhero movie.
Mystery
Oh,
Men?
Mystery Men.
Men. Very wonderful callback. Until you learn to master your rage will become your master. And Chris Pine immediately calls it out. He lampshades it. He says, "Just because that sentence is symmetrical doesn't mean it doesn't not make sense." But they have a wonderful little conversation. They convince the paladin to come with them, and he makes Chris Pine swear on the Harper's Bible to give all the riches they get from the heist to the people of Waterdeep. And he's very obviously lying.
Neverwinter.
I'm sorry, Neverwinter, correct. And he's very obviously lying, but he says the paladin who's again, he's kind of a Drax the Destroyer, super literal
Very
type,
and dry.
but very, very principled man. He says, "You might not believe your oath yet, but what you said is true." And it's just a lovely little moment.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I like it. It's you might not think you're telling the truth, but you are. I believe in you more than you believe in you. Believe in the me that believes in you. And then they go to
We
where?
need that. We need that reference or refresher in the hero's journey that
Absolutely.
we're
Hey.
trying, but I don't know.
Yep. Because at this point, he's lost the faith of his daughter. He's
Yeah.
failed. He's failed. And he's like, "Hey, man, I see that deep down you might have failed a lot. You're a good guy, and I believe in you, even if you don't." Which is a really wonderful thing. He's the sage in the hero's journey,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
He absolutely is. And he takes them to where he's hidden the helm in the Underdark, where all of our D&D fans will be like, "Oh, what happens?" And there's a wonderful moment when they just get into the Underdark. What happens when they just get into the Underdark?
Are you talking about when they get to the bridge? Or...
When they're
brains.
on the escarpment on the
Oh my
on the
gosh!
cliff.
Oh my gosh! So
The mind
so
devourers.
the paladin explains the mind devourers, and he's like, "Oh, they're attracted to intelligence, right? The brain activity." And they just walk past all four of them, and Chris Pine's like, "Well, that's insulting."
That hurt a little bit.
Yeah, that was really funny.
They make it all the way down. They find the helm, but the assassins that have been tracking, the evil cult assassins that the evil wizard works for, okay, whatever, that can go anywhere, have been tracking them, and they show up, and the paladin just fucking handles them. Obviously, this paladin
Oh, that
is a
fight
lot
scene.
higher level than the rest of the
Oh,
party.
yeah.
He's been around for a while.
He has.
Right.
He's a couple hundred years old.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll touch on this towards the end, but
So, I mean, we also got the setup for like, hey, red wizards cast spell, turns people into undead.
I
Like,
yeah, I get that, but I did have a problem with the overall combat
Okay.
in this entire movie.
Because there wasn't turns.
No, Dennis.
Now
Well, do you want to
know.
touch on that now? or do
Yeah,
you
I'll
wanna-
touch on that
Go ahead.
now. I mean, until the final fight, none of the main characters or anybody that was fighting got hit. Everybody had plot armor
Michelle
until
Rodriguez during the city fight, she got thrown around a bit.
she got thrown around.
Yeah, Chris Pine was busy
But
trying to break his ropes on a step.
literally
Yeah.
being thrown around, but still having no guff or no scuff or no nothing.
I dispute that with the chase scene with the druid.
Oh, yeah, she got slammed a couple times.
She definitely got injured.
And our wild magic sorcerer got held and choked a couple times as well.
Okay.
They were definitely in danger. They just weren't in mortal
I
danger.
think it's how you look at the mechanics of D&D. Do you look at HP as meat points, or do you look at HP as ran out of luck points?
It's also movie, like...
Yeah,
You're not going to put them in danger, like full danger
No,
just
you-
yet. You
I-
just have them
Yeah,
get hit a
but-
few
but
I don't
times.
accept that. Anybody who's seen my Mandalorian video knows that you don't
but
accept that.
They got hit a few times to make it believable. It wasn't Mandalorian where they miss nonstop.
Or
Well,
they have
true,
impenetrable
but
armor.
getting
Yeah.
pushed around and also taking a sword to the side are two different arguments. And what I'm saying is, if you're in combat, right, and I'm not talking D&D combat, I'm talking just combat, you're gonna take some fucking hits to the ribs or something like that. And there was never a fatal cut or blow or any of that. There was like, you had guards galore, and you had undead, and you had people in the underrealm fucking fighting their asses off, but there was never a moment where an actual weapon made any sort of not mortal contact, but at least a cut or a slice
Till
that
the
was
end.
actually yes, of course, towards the end there was that, but that's something that did take me out, but it didn't take you out.
Because they're lower level NPCs. Come on.
Well then,
They only have 10 hit points.
Yeah.
no DM is that
parties are
stupid,
30
and I
at the
have
third
the
level.
stupidest DM.
Well, I think there's two ways you could go with it, though. Is you can go with, oh, they haven't been hit by these deadly weapons, and that doesn't really give me a sense of danger, which I completely understand and almost agree with. You could also go the other end of, they don't want them to be hit by deadly weapons, because if you hit them with deadly weapons and then they continue on and they're fine, then you're like, so swords don't matter,
Well, yeah, and they don't have a healer.
and they don't have
They
a healer.
don't have a healer
yeah,
in their
but none
party.
of us have a healer, but we just sleep. And there could have been a quick just camp.
I'm a cleric in my campaign.
They didn't have time for camp.
Well,
You're in the Tombs of Madness.
Yeah, but
No,
I'm still a cleric.
cleric does not matter in the Tombs of Madness.
I didn't know. I thought I was going to need to turn undead, so I picked a cleric, and here we are with no
yeah,
undead.
for your party
Let's
members.
not get into our weird bi-weekly thing.
well,
Patreon.com. Oh, wait.
Botched
You already
Podcast.
subscribed. So
yeah,
we
yeah,
don't have to-
birdswithpenises.com.
Birds with
Now,
wings.
Damn you, Dennis.
believable or not, our paladin dispatches all these assassins, but oh no, they're already dead, and they begin to rise again. They've been infested with some sort of necromantic magic, right? And they say run. They run through the Underdark and the lava, and they retreat up this
turn undead.
pile of skulls and begin to slip down. But at the last moment, there's a rumbling and a spark from a cave. And it's very clearly a dragon. But
Yoshi!
Chonko dragon.
he has to just
Waddle out.
squeeze out because it's this big fat dragon.
What do you do?
Or
Eat his
she.
last
He's like-
layer?
or she. Yeah, this big fat dragon is like, and then somebody says, oh, they must have changed layers, and
Chris Pine.
Thimberchawd, which is a very thick name for a dragon. And somebody says, oh, he must have found a new layer. Chris Pine says, did he eat the old one?
Yeah, he's so fat.
And he just
so
starts
fat.
rolling towards them
Yeah.
and eating people.
He slides like a seal at first, and then when he can't do that anymore, he's just flopping around and rolling.
Well, but they make their way into a cave and where Thunderchad, Chad
Thunder
Thunderchad
Chad.
can't follow them, and they're trapped though. But there's water above. But they have their walking stick that is it's a portal gun that they used earlier, which is conveniently the walking stick that Michelle Rodriguez gave to her husband. Anyway, fine. I have a problem with that. It's fine. It's fun. But they say, oh, we can't use that because it needs line of sight. Yeah. And they don't have line of sight. But they set it up earlier. Our sorcerer has prestidigitation, and he can produce a small flame. Or it might even be produce flame, right?
Could be.
And if the dragon is producing gas, well, they just have to get under the water that's falling above them and blow open that gas. It'll blow open the roof, and they get to the top. And now they have the helm, right? And our sorcerer says, well, I have to attune to the helm.
Oh, can we talk about the paladin walking away?
Well, okay. Well, let's
Walking
talk
on a
about
straight line.
the sorcerer attuning to the helm. Who wants to talk about the sorcerer attuning to the helm?
I mean, fairly standard. This is like the low point before we what is that in stories? So it's like that specific act where everything seems like it's at its lowest and the party's about to break up and all that jazz because he's just not sure of himself. He has low self-esteem, and he puts on the helm and he's confronted by what appears to be one of his ancestors who basically tells him that he's useless, and then he gets knocked backwards. And Chris Pine is every time he's just like, hey, you didn't get knocked back quite as far this time, because Chris Pratt is just basically trying to smarmy his way out of everything at this point and just convince everybody.
Before you get too far, let me stop you. Dennis, do you know who that ancestor was?
No.
In D&D lore? Philip, do you know who the ancestor was?
No.
Only
Shannon,
Steve.
do you know who that ancestor was in the D&D lore? They say it one time in the movie, and they don't repeat it because they expect you to be intelligent and pick it up.
Oh, darn.
That ancestor is Elminster, who is a character from Gary Gygax's original private campaign, in addition to Mordenkainen, who they mentioned earlier. Elminster, his ancestor is the famous magician Elminster, who they name in this one, of course, Elminster Omar, and he says, you're not worthy of this helm, and he can't attune to it, he's thrown back. And then, as you say, the paladin says, what?
Hold on, do you
Go ahead.
have more history on Elminster?
Yeah, it's from the Greyhawk campaign, as far as I know, which was Gary Gygax's own home campaign that he built for himself, and basically any spell that you see in the 5th edition D&D book that says like a person's name, Elminster, Mordenkainen, Tasha. These are all characters from that campaign, and they made their own spells.
No fuck.
Tasha's hideous laughter.
Absolutely. Yep, 100%.
So who the fuck is Leomund so I can be angry
same
at
thing.
his tiny
Same
hut?
thing.
He's the builder of great huts.
Fucking hate that spell. Son of-
Famous carpenter.
You are correct. The Forgotten Realms campaign setting.
Holy shit.
Wow.
He's also known as the Sage of Shadowdale.
Yep.
That's
He's in the Baldur's Gate video game. You meet him on the way from Candlekeep to Baldur's Gate.
That's cool.
But
Steve's so small.
I don't play books.
God, I wish you weren't so ugly.
But yeah, we hit our low point, right? That all the characters have lost faith. They learn that Chris Pine has lied to them about his faith in the sorcerer to attune to the helm, and they're all sad. They're all about to leave, but Chris Pine does what?
He jerks off.
Bardic
It's right.
inspiration.
He jerks off on all of them. He comes on their faces, and they're like, so much protein.
Roll
I'm ready to go.
credits.
Let's sit on this ride.
He admits his
He's
faults.
the biggest failure.
That he fails constantly over and over again.
Like what?
Like me.
A bard.
Yeah.
I've played a bard for 6 years, and that's true.
Jacks of all trades, master of none, motherfucker.
That's right. But he's he gives the speech that's like we fail, but if we have to keep
If we
failing
stop, then we
because
really
if we
fail.
stop failing, then we failed.
So,
Yeah.
Which is
everybody,
true.
Yeah.
welcome to the psyche of Philip D. Keating, the imaginary nomad.
Yeah.
That is the moment in this movie that was like, hey, I got this mirror you got to look at real quick. And it's like, I don't like it.
It's too real. This movie got too real.
Don't show it to me. I don't want to see it. Hideous laughter is all I hear.
I'm gonna go in my tiny hut. Leave me alone.
Yeah, man, I hate that moment, but it rings kind of true to me, where it's just like, keep them feet moving.
Yep.
Because if you keep them feet moving, you just can't fucking worry about all the stumbles and all the other.
Well, I'll say that scene led to a lot of fun stuff.
Well, and we get our wonderful moment where our barbarian and our druid sit down next to him on the rock. He's sitting down. And we're like, yeah, we're gonna stay. We're gonna see this through. And then our sorcerer, we get our Guardians of the Galaxy moment. He says, I'd sit down too, but there's not any more room with the rock.
Yeah.
So we didn't really touch on it, but our druid is a tiefling.
Yes, she is,
Yeah.
and she says she was born to human parents and rejected by them.
Yeah,
She doesn't like humans.
I don't think we've ever had a tiefling on our show.
we haven't, but
No one likes them for some reason.
well, that's like,
I'm not edgy enough to play a tiefling.
but that's through all tables of D&D that people kind of
Don't trust
poo-poo the tieflings.
Yeah.
It's
I don't
hard
know.
to play a tiefling in the Forgotten Realms because they're not trusted.
Sure.
So why did they make? Why do you think that they made this tiefling a
Druid?
a halfling, a half tiefling, half human?
I think. Well, a tiefling is already is just
it's
touched
all-
by the lower
yeah.
planes, basically.
So why? So do you
Tieflings
think?
always have.
Why do you think that?
Well, you know what? To be honest, I think this is one of the things that was underdeveloped because it's a setup that you get when you meet her in the Emerald Autoclave Village. She says,
Yeah.
"I don't like humans. My parents were humans. They cast me out. I found this family that I love that accept me for who I am," and then. Nothing else is mentioned about it until the very end of the movie.
But I mean, what's the Emerald Enclave? Is that what it is?
Yes.
I'm going to guess that those are probably elves, considering it's woodland people.
There's probably a lot of elves. There's probably some
And what is-
humans. There's
what
probably
is-
all sorts
Sure.
furbolgs, all sorts of people.
But like Hugh Grant's whole thing is like deforestation and like killing her people. So I get her being distrustful of humanity.
And I don't think we saw enough of that either, honestly.
I mean, they showed it. I mean, as long as they could show it. I mean, if they dealt,
they gave us like one scene, really.
yeah, if they went too crazy with, I mean,
Well,
you get the picture.
Steve's angry because there was the 15 to 20-minute backstory on
I liked that.
Chris
But after
Pine,
that,
but
once we got past that part, I was on board. I think
I
the
liked
pacing
that.
was good.
well, I know, and same. I thought that as well. But for the tiefling, we got the horns,
Yeah.
we got the tail.
I actually thought that it was a.
She had a
satyr
tail?
for-
Yeah,
She
I
did.
never noticed.
Yeah, she
no
did.
shit.
Yeah,
When-
she
I
used
never
it.
noticed it.
She
She
used
used it
it.
when the portal had the guy falling out of the carriage. She used the tail to loop
Hey,
around. a
go
thing.
see Dungeons and Dragons twice. You might see something you didn't see before.
But I was trying to say this leads into like my favorite use of the portal gun, which is like the tearing apart of the carriage, putting it into the carriage, then fixing the carriage. I thought that was a really clever use.
No. Where they finally get a plan together, and Chris Pine's like, I'm the planner. I plan things, and they have the hither thither stick. They have they have the helm. They have everything they need. They know that goods are going to be being transported into the vault in the middle of Neverwinter, and yes, absolutely, they put together this perfect D&D party plan. Tell us more about it, Dennis.
So the plan is, all right, so it's going to be impossible to get things out of the vault, but it's going to be much easier to put things into the vault. So they just need a way to put something in the vault that they can use, so thus the hither thither gun. So they buy some shitty portrait from some random vendor. They take the portrait off. They use the hither thither gun to put one end of the portal onto the portrait. Then they cover it up with paper. And then they basically they have Chris Pine hiding in leaves. He sticks it to the underside of the carriage. Then on the other side, they use the thither side on a rock, and then they can knock out the boards on the carriage, get up in the carriage in a really cool use of perspective with the tiefling, who then basically pulls the portrait up through, flips it upside down so they can fix the carriage and put it back together, and then she flies out as the portrait is put in place Like she puts the paper back on it. So that way the idea is when the portrait gets to where it's going, a.k.a. the treasure room, they'll just pop out of the portrait in the treasure room, wing, bang, bum, all good to go.
It's a great plan.
It's
I love it when a plan comes
super
together.
Cool. It doesn't work out that way. But
Why?
It's super
Because
cool.
the DM is a cunt?
Exactly. Well, so it turns
Exactly.
out that
Well.
the bad guy was planning to steal everything in the end, anyways. So, and the portrait falls over, so they have to it's stone when they open up a portal.
It's just like
High low,
this is. Yep.
high low.
This is all I know through D&D. Like Hi, my name's Philip, and I've had a bad DM for 7 years.
You've had an okay DM.
Okay.
Some might say the world's most
The
okayest.
most okay DM.
Yeah, self-proclaimed.
You made that moniker, my friend.
I did.
You
That-
did it.
That
You
was me.
Fucking blame yourself.
But that's where it also felt like it was table play, where it's like this really great plan, everything's coming together, everything's working out, and then the DM's like, "That's
Fuck
not
you."
how that's not how my story's gonna go. So you don't get to do that." The painting is face down. When you get there, it's just like, "Is it?" And the DM's like, "Yeah."
But it led to one of the
Yeah, it
funniest
is.
scenes in the movie.
Absolutely. It super does. The druid says, if I can chip out just a millimeter or an
I can
inch
turn
of
a
space,
worm.
yeah, I can turn into a worm and get through this, right?
Yeah.
And the rest of them are like, we're going to go back to plan A.
You figure
Well,
fucking
it's
hell
plan
out.
C now because plan A has a stank on it.
Yeah.
But they, and this is the only part that I will accept that Chris Pine's character has a little bit of Bard in him. He casts a little bit of Friends on the guards in front of the castle. He plays a song. No, and I'll say my reasoning, because Friends is a cantrip that you cast, and it immediately charms the people in front of you or gives you advantage on charisma checks in
Which
front of them.
they were moving
But
forward towards
when
him.
they realize that they have been manipulated, they get mad.
Yeah.
And a minor or a major illusion has been cast by our by our sorcerer that is a duplicate of Chris Pine, while the rest of them sneak by. What happens?
I think that was the funniest
Oh my
scene
God.
So
for
funny.
me.
It was like a game
Where,
glitch.
yeah, where Chris Pine's
He's singing a song.
illusion is singing, and his eyeballs start to bulge, and his face starts to melt,
jaw starts
and
to drop.
I am dying
And the-
as his head is sinking into his neck.
But like the guards are like, what
Those
is
editors
going
are
on?
talented in Adobe Premiere. Let me
What
tell you.
is wrong? What is wrong with this person?
I was I
It was
was
so funny.
Like, ah,
literally
shit, my foot's
dying.
stuck.
So, question:
Uh-huh.
Was Chris Pine the one casting that spell?
No, it was
No.
the wizard.
There was
obviously, or
two
the
spells
sorcerer.
being
Yes,
cast.
yes.
I think Chris Pine was casting Friends
Yep.
to kind of charm or give himself advantage on the charisma check, and Major Illusion was
Major
being cast
Illusion,
by
right?
the
So
by
then-
the
Because
sorcerer.
the sorcerer, they show him pointing in the direction of the Chris Pine illusion,
Well, and
but his foot's stuck.
right, the illusion
there's,
started
like, waves
skipping
coming
the
off, yeah.
song when his foot got stuck in the
Exactly.
stone.
So, but I don't think Chris Pine had
I don't
anything
think he
to
had
do
anything
with
to
it.
do with it.
I
think
think it was
a
just.
distraction.
You're right. He's a mastermind rogue. Thank you. You're right. Thank you for making me see the light.
Mastermind Bard, got it.
And so are you. Continue. It's almost midnight.
Okay, so they get into the castle, but oh no, all this stuff has been emptied. But Hugh Grant is taking all the treasure for himself, and the evil wizard has a plan to bring the spell that her evil lord allows them to make more members of the cult that they're a part of, and however. They figure it out. They fight in the arena. They go through a maze which is filled
Displacer
with
beasts.
displacer beasts and mimics,
Yeah.
and they get out of it, right?
And
They-
a gelatinous
by
cube.
using a
cube.
gelatinous,
And a gelatinous cube.
and they get spit out of the bottom and get to the dock where Hugh Grant's character has gotten all of the treasure and ready to go. And you got something.
Well, using a gelatinous cube in a smart party way. with
Absolutely.
the walls of this maze are falling down.
I thought that was a cool
The
design,
more
by the way.
time
It was very
that-
cool.
Yes.
And the druid knew this going into it, and just timing. And so this was another D&D moment for me.
Yeah.
As the entire party readied in action,
Yeah.
Yep.
waiting for the gong to hit.
Absolutely. Yep,
And it was just like,
they're ready in action. They say our trigger is when that gong hits. We're going to jump into this gelatinous
Exactly.
cube and ride it down.
write it down until it dissipates and I can get out as a snake. And that's why I'm saying non-D&D players won't understand why this is happening. Like, because they showed the skeleton of the other party member, deteriorating and dying inside this cube. Why does
The blob.
why does our party get to survive this? It just doesn't make sense.
Although I will say, in the maze, I'm pretty sure that other party that's running around, I feel like that looks like the most generic standard.
No.
There were two parties.
Oh, no.
There were two parties.
Hold on. That was the Gauntlet party.
Yeah.
That was your full-on Gauntlet arcade party.
Yeah, that's what it looked
down
like.
to the costume.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Those costumes
Yes,
look very
it was a
specific.
fucking fan service
Yeah.
without being a goddamn fan service.
It was lovely.
That was cool.
Oh my god, Ranger needs fucking food. Let's go.
He needs meat to heal him. Wizard needs meat.
Wizard needs food. Like, it was a reason that they were dressed like that.
Sure.
Which is like, hey, I know we're in the middle of a D&D party movie, and I know that we're in the last 20 minutes, but I'm just going to throw a Gauntlet reference real quick at you. And, like, I couldn't, like, at that point, there was so much blood pumping south that my brain was not thinking correctly. I forgot the name of my kid at that point.
Well, that's like a Tuesday.
Well,
It's
yeah,
Bill.
because
Bill
I'm
the kid.
normally at this table drunk, but
And
like
he's not here.
exactly.
So you forgot him.
But oh god, it was so stupidly perfect, and that's why normies don't get to.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, it is fine for a general audience, but for people who really know, it hits a deeper level.
Yeah, but my also argument is like there is no reason that our party gets out of that gelatinous cube, but they do because they know the
drew it on
workaround. But
plan.
also, general audiences don't understand why the Jello cube is so impossible in such a classic trap.
The blob.
I've lost many a party
seen the
member
blob.
to the gelatinous cube.
Yeah, they're really tough on level 1 parties.
That is true.
And the Jello keeps on jiggling.
That's true.
Well, they use the
Well, they didn't even move in
gelatinous
this.
cube to their advantage to get out and under the arena and out to
boat.
Hugh Grant's character that has stowed all the treasure in his boat to escape in exchange for the wizard being able to cast a horrible spell. And Chris Pine reunites with his daughter, and we have our fun little character quirk moment where Michelle Rodriguez sees a potato and grabs it and throws it
Slow-mo.
in Hugh Grant's face to distract him. Our sorcerer casts a wave, and they get away on the boat, and they're celebrating the loot and being in a successful heist, and they look back and they see the evil wizard's spell being cast, and they're changed people at this point. They're not just motivated by treasure. They're not just motivated by selfish reasons, and they say, well, shit.
Yep.
They turn around to save Neverwinter, and we have a really wonderful little D&D fight with all sorts of spells, like the invincible globe or whatever it's called. I don't know that spell is
Looked
called.
like a water orb.
Well,
Yeah.
it's an actual spell that makes an invincible globe, because I know because I've been caught in one of my campaigns.
It's called Globius Otopoulos.
And we have the evil wizard using her like disgusting fleshy
hand.
Big B's hand, and the noble sorcerer using his
Stone
rocky Big B's hand, fighting each other.
For Adrian.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they, and they all start to work together, and it's just lovely, a lovely little in piece. Go watch it, go see it. and they finally they
Owlbear,
defeat the
more?
wizard.
More owlbear?
Owlbear.
Oh,
Make
yeah.
sure she's dead, and we have our Hulk at the end of the Avengers
Oh my
moment.
God.
Yeah.
Just beating the
Smash,
evil
smash,
wizard
smash,
to the
smash,
ground.
Into the wall.
You know the wall.
But then we find out that Michelle Rodriguez, Barbarian, not fighter, you're wrong, has been mortally wounded. She says,
Would have taken half damage
there's a
from
knife in
poison.
her heart. She says, oh, that's in a bad spot, isn't it? But we find out that she's been, it's a wed
It's a wed
it's a
wizard's
Wes
blade.
Wizard's
Marriage.
blade, and you can't be resurrected from
Marriage.
that. But Chris Pine decides to make the noble sacrifice. We see this lovely little montage. It's not explicitly stated, but we're shown these scenes of her caring for the daughter, and growing up with her. And we know he got this resurrection stone to bring his wife back. He told her it was to bring his mom back. And we find out that her mom isn't his wife. Her mom at this point is Michelle Rodriguez, Barbarian, and he's like, I've got to bring her mom back. And he does. He makes the sacrifice
say
play.
something?
Yeah, go.
This was, it wasn't that it was bad. It was just that I found this part to be the most predictable in the movie because they kept saying, you can only use this once. I'm going to bring my wife back.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, which one of the party members is going to die? So they fucking use
Well,
this stone
and I
to
agree
bring
with
him
you,
back.
and I don't think predictable is always bad. I think
No.
sometimes giving the audience what they're expecting, which is the hero to make the heroic move, is good.
No, yeah.
Hold
I'm
on.
not saying it was bad. I'm
Hold
just
on.
saying that it was overly predictable.
I was shocked when Michelle's character
Barbarian.
was stabbed and obviously going to die, but it was a moment where Chris Pine had to have the revelation of, he was so focused on bringing his wife back.
Right.
Sure.
His
Yeah.
wife.
Yeah.
But at this point, his daughter doesn't know her. And
Right.
the person that his daughter is attached to and sees as her mother is Michelle Rodriguez.
100%.
So at
Honestly,
that point, he has to make that sacrifice. He has to give up the love of his
No,
life
shut up, Dennis.
for his daughter.
I thought it was going to be Chris Pine and not Michelle Rodriguez, but that's fine too. Close enough.
No, because
I knew one of
of
them
that.
was going to die.
I mean, they were putting so much focus on the daughter
sure.
through this entire movie, and
Well, yeah.
that was. Don't say sure.
Sure.
Through this entire movie, I mean, they've been putting emphasis on, I'm going back for my daughter and my wife and all the other stuff. I mean, God-King is right. I mean, I wasn't shocked by the way that the tablet was used, but it's
No, not.
It was written
I
well.
just didn't expect her to be injured and mortally wounded.
and
She
I
didn't
did,
rage.
and I did, and it didn't bother me because this is a Dungeons and Dragons movie,
Sure.
and people have gone through worse to save their party members' characters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and 100%, like in a character way, it completely works because they set up his growth in understanding not to be in stopping lying to himself about doing the selfish things for his daughter and saying, well, I'm actually going to do something for my daughter. But in a mechanical Dungeons and Dragons way, or even in a meta Dungeons and Dragons way, it's like, well, I'm not going to let Sheila the Barbarian die.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make you re-roll a character. I'm gonna do the bro move.
Oh yeah,
and save your character.
15 minutes into an episode, we wouldn't do that.
No, never do
Yeah.
that. Never do that.
So, where do we stand on this, Steve?
Are we doing our actual number score now?
Well, what I want to know is
This is just happily ever after at that point. After that moment.
Yeah, after that, it's
just a wrap up.
it's a happily
like,
ever after. He's made the sacrifice play. Everybody's together.
Sure.
Well, except
King wakes up. Emerald Enclave gets what they need. Everything Hugh Grant then goes to the prison. So then Hugh Grant's having the same sort of thing that Chris Pine had. He tries to take the bird through the window, but they covered it in bricks.
Oh, and we
So that
forgot
was
to
funny.
talk about the payoff that we talked about with the Paladin, right? Where the Paladin says, "You don't believe that you're going to give the money back to the
Yeah.
people, but I believe it." And he, in order to get the people out of the stadium to stop the evil spell
the
from
money.
being cast on them, he uses the portal gun to drop the money from a balloon and lure them out of the stadium. The
Surprised
free
that-
gift.
surprised that balloon could carry all that gold. and
Well,
treasure.
it
It's
didn't.
not
It
a
was
balloon,
the
it's a
hither
portal.
there.
Oh, that's right. You're
Yeah,
right.
it's
You're
not
right.
how the
you're
portal
right.
works.
But Man, I had a thought and now it's gone.
Well, everybody's happily ever after, except
Oh, what I wanted to say was now we're opened up for definitely a second.
Well,
Like, there could be a second movie.
I don't think it'll be the same group.
Oh,
Why not?
Why not? Everyone, shut the fuck up. Shut up.
This was just a Thursday night.
This movie is complete. We are done recapping it.
it's good.
Steve, did you like this movie?
I liked it, man. I've got some problems with the plotting. I think the character work was really strong. I laughed. I did a little cry. I did a little cry at the end where Michelle Rodriguez was with the montage of her being a mother, and I understood that Chris Pine was about to make the sacrifice play. I teared up. I really recommend it. Especially if you're a Dungeons and Dragons fan, go see it. And if you know me, that it's a lot coming from me because I hate movies. So go see it. I think it's really fun.
Do you believe this movie deserves a sequel?
Yes, as long as they learn the right lessons from it, which is the character work, the fun meta appreciation for it, the references that fit into the story, not just, hey, look, it's R2-D2, but they fit into the story. If they learn those lessons from it, yes, please give us another one.
Do you think this movie will get a sequel?
If it makes it's opening night, but if it makes a shitload of money, let's do it.
Dennis,
Yes.
what's your takeaway about this movie?
Like I said, I thought it was a lot of fun. The plot wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't anything new we haven't seen before, but I thought it was a very well done D&D movie that works for both general audiences and specific audiences, as Steve was saying with all the references. I will say that I think with this type of movie, you could easily do other D&D movies that do not have anything to do with the plot or characters of this movie, because that's kind of the good thing about D&D is you can do anything with D&D. It doesn't all have to be related. Like, they could just make completely new characters. As long as the characters are interesting and fun, fuck it. Who cares? You could just keep doing different stories. Like, this one's called Honor Among Thieves. You could call, the next one whatever it is, and that's a different set of characters in a different circumstance. And it could be the same world, could be in the future, whatever. I like that about D&D is, as long as it's written well, you could make a good movie. That's the thing about D&D is it's the easiest to both succeed and fuck up. Like, it's very easy to succeed at making a good, compelling D&D movie. It's also, or story even. It's also easy to fuck it up. But, like, with the right care and process like this movie had, you could make infinite D&D movies that all have different plots, different characters. You could touch on different classes. You could do all kinds of crazy shit. And, like, this movie had lots of member berries, but very specific member berries that are. It's not like Star Wars where it's
That
like
fit into the story.
Fit in the
Steve,
story.
This is not your part. You already
No, but
talked.
he's right. That fit into the story, that don't beat you over the head like other franchises do. This could do that easily. So, could you do another movie that is a direct
I
sequel
haven't
to
even
this?
asked that yet.
I know. I'm saying
Chris Pine, get your fucking story ended so I can continue.
sure. So it's like, could you do a direct sequel? Yes. Could you do something that's not related at all, like what they would do with True Detective or something like that? Like every movie's a completely different movie? Yeah, you could do it. It would work as long as the writing was good, I would think.
Does this? Do you think that this movie
Shut up.
deserves a sequel?
Yeah,
Do you think this movie will get a sequel?
as long as it makes money, yeah. You said the budget was 150?
Yeah.
That should be easy.
I think
Should be.
It'll make that this weekend.
Should
hopefully.
be. Shitty movies make that much in spades these days.
In
Not,
space.
not Shazam. God King.
Oh, you know.
Just please.
She just wants a
stick-
paladin
I
solo
would, okay,
movie.
eat the
Please.
microphone.
No, just
No.
stick to my fucking format and
Yes,
answer
you-
my
I
questions.
answered your
Not like
question.
my fucking autistic DM. What was your
Artistic.
takeaway?
Artistic.
Really? You don't do art.
I do.
What was your takeaway
paint.
from this movie?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. On a scale, you didn't give us a scale. On a scale of 1 to 10,
Well, I mean, I didn't want to, you know.
You know what? I give it an 8.5.
I didn't-
8.5 out of 10.
I didn't want to bring that S word in because of our Dragonborn listeners. I didn't want to offend them.
Oh my God,
Can
guys!
we talk about the Dragonborns? We
Wait,
won't.
yes, the
because-
Dragonborns were
no.
sick as fuck in this movie. They look so good.
Everybody had their time but Shannon, so yeah, those Dragonborn looks dope. But not only that, but like the attention to detail of the fucking
and
little.
the
Oh, dude.
Arakoa.
So here,
Oh
okay,
my
so
God.
hold on. Now that you have the fucking mic and no one else does, I asked Steve
Cats.
towards the end, like, hey, are we gonna see a Warforge in this, right? And he's like, it's not part of 5A.
It's not part of Faerun.
it's
It's
not-
it's
I was
in
gonna say, it's definitely part
it's
of
in a
5e.
different setting. Eberron.
Yeah.
But like, we got
Do Eberron that.
we got kitty cats. We got Aarakocras. Man, it was fun.
Oh my God, they nailed it. They nailed it. And so I was already pumped, and it exceeded my expectations. I already thought it was going to be really good, and it was better than I thought it was going to be. And I'm glad that it gets the stamp of approval from you and Steve, because that's a hard stamp of approval to achieve.
Thanks.
So I want to say, I told you so. I told you so.
And I'll you know what? If you bake it really well, I'll eat that crow.
Absolutely.
Nah, I'm not gonna do that.
Salty it.
I'm glad that you guys liked it. I would go see it again this weekend. If I didn't have plans already,
Yeah.
I'd go again. And I hope that people are gonna go see it and they're gonna tell their friends, go see it again, and that we do get a sequel, because it is. Sorry, you wanted to ask me.
I'm looking for your takeaway. I'm not
Okay.
asking about sequels yet.
Go see it. 8.5 out of 10. Whether you're a D&D fan or not, I think you'll still appreciate it, because it still has jokes that will land with general audiences. They'll still find it entertaining. But if you play D&D, there's just so much. There are little Easter eggs in there, like Steve was saying before. You're going to love it.
Do you think this movie deserves a sequel,
I
though?
absolutely think it deserves a sequel,
Why?
because it's incredible. They're the first ones to really nail a D&D movie like this. And like you were saying before, this is the way to do fan service. So many times, we love something and it comes to the screen and it's just not at all what we wanted it to be or what we were expecting. And the thought that it can't be true to the source material. We've got to make changes because people are going to know what's going to happen and all of that. It's not true. People want to see what they know and love just come to life. And that's exactly what this movie does. And so, yes, absolutely, it deserves a sequel.
Will it get one, though?
God, I hope so. I hope that it makes triple, quadruple the money that they put into it, and that we do get a sequel, because it's set up already. The mastermind for the evil wizard, is still out there. So absolutely there could be a number 2. And Dennis is right. It could be a completely different party. But it is wide open for this same set of party members to maybe even pick up another one to be able to go into a number 2.
I will say,
And poop.
any sequels we get need more Tumble Basket.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So you and me were the
We
only
were
one that
laughing.
fucking
Oh
laughed.
my god, you guys
Basket.
giggled so fucking loud during that part.
Oh my god, I almost shit. I was so
I
fucking.
chuckled.
I
but
saw
was like,
something going, but I didn't see what it
It was a basket,
Little
like a
basket.
tumbleweed.
But it looked like a tumbleweed when
and
they
a
were
high
facing
noon.
off.
Oh,
with the
okay.
hand, with the
Yeah.
So
hands.
it was a Western
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah,
Okay, I got it.
Western
Okay.
trope.
I was like,
And
that's,
I was
that's
so
good.
smitten with it.
Yeah,
was good.
yeah.
I was like,
So-
that's cute.
So Phil, what is your takeaway?
My takeaway from this movie is that I have a really shitty DM who doesn't know how to tell stories correctly. Like, this is how
not
you
what Jen
build
says.
a fucking world. Build fucking off characters that are supposed to have motivations, but not always dastardly to the overall campaign, but just self-serving to themselves to get, hey, let's betray everybody that I know, but also like, hey, I'm always looking out for myself. The thing about this movie that really felt really great is that the writing knew exactly what they had to do. And it's been my problem with a lot of movies that I've seen in theater recently. And that's why I went in here with a very fucking grinchy stone heart, because I was like, I've been here hundreds of times and I've been disappointed 75% of the times. And recently, it's been like just a fucking over the hand, stupid, and just in your face. Remember this? Ha! Wow! Oh, isn't that crazy? Remember this? Oh my gee willikers! But like I said before, when they did that stupid long backstory, and then also the very short backstory after that, I was like, all right, these people know what we're doing. They know what they're doing. They know where we're going, and they're going to handle this with care. And they did. And it really, for the longest time, has put me at ease at the movie theater. Does this movie deserve a sequel? It most certainly does. And I want to piggyback on what everybody is saying is, yeah, it deserves a sequel. They did a really great job with it. What they do is, though, it's not that they bring in different storylines. I think you keep with this party, and then you have character death. And you have character death early in the film.
Just like G.I. Joe 2.
And you bring new characters in. So, like, Chris Pine isn't stuck on a 3 to 5 movie deal because we already established his arc, right? So we're not going to get much out of that arc. Maybe a relationship between him and his daughter that he's been fighting for this entire time. But what makes a daughter stronger than watching her father die after he's done so much to get back to this point? And then that's how you rotate characters in and out, because who hasn't been at a table where you lose a character? Right. And then even then, if we're playing D&D rules, 2 movies down the road, you make that trip to hell and you try to fight to get that character out of the grips of Hades, right? So, like, no one's ever really gone in D&D, and that's how I believe that this series should move forward. And, yeah, I mean, gosh darn, I would love to get a rogue in this series. I feel like they could really help this party out. Will it get a sequel? I don't think it will.
Okay.
All depends on if it makes
What's
it funny.
Why not?
I think it won't recoup the $180 to $200 million that was spent on it.
Okay.
I don't want this, but this is what I believe.
I hope you're wrong.
I think it's safe for other markets.
I hope I'm wrong as well. No, well,
like
Dennis,
China has nothing against this movie. There's nothing in
there's
this.
no skeletons in this movie.
No. There's no Winnie the Pooh.
Ooh, you know what? Here's the deal, and I'm going to say something. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. This movie has way too many people of color for China to like it.
Yeah, you might be right on that.
China, like, famously, right? Like, Finn from Star Wars movies was made smaller or taken out completely of the marketing for the Star Wars films for marketing to China. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's quite annoying enough for China to not buy into it.
We'll see. I hope you're right.
I don't know how big D&D is in China, though. So I don't know.
Well, it's. I mean, that has nothing to do with it. I think more.
It helps.
It most certainly helps, but they're enough into fantasy and wizards and boards and swords that I don't think it's that much of a stretch.
Yeah, you don't even have to market it as a D&D movie.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's gonna get the respect that it deserves, and I think that we're gonna have our moment in time. I think, this might be the Firefly of movies.
Maybe.
Hey, what a moment to have.
But also, I mean, just like Firefly, it's encompassing, it's beautiful and well written,
Absolutely.
and wonderful. And we have that, and so is this movie.
Deadline says that as of midday today, it has already made $40 million.
All right.
Yes,
Let's fucking go.
Tell all your D&D friends to go see it.
That's
Take
it.
your party. Go
and
see
as
it.
we go, we also go. Dennis,
Yes.
tell people where they can get your werewolf book.
So, yeah, I write comic books about the world's first werewolf. You can find it over at www.hiveheadstudios.com. Hive as in like beehive. The first and second book are available digitally and physically on the website. And I also have a patreon.com/hiveheadstudios where I do podcasts with Charles Rock Out of Podcasting, where we do like behind-the-scenes stuff and like the making of and the business things as well.
God-King, thank you so much for our tickets. Happy birthday, Dennis, for the next couple of minutes.
By the way, I just got a text of a review from another D&D fan who said 10 out of 10 for Chunky Boy Dragon, 8 out of 10 overall. So
See?
It made me laugh.
See?
It made me giggle.
From a who?
it was Maria,
But from a who?
a D&D fan.
Okay.
An original member of the show.
Well, I get that, but you said another D&D fan, so
Yeah.
I think we'll just have to see.
Potato represent.
God-King,
Yes.
tell people about stuff.
Oh gosh. I don't have a heavy online presence, but you could literally find me anywhere as Shanda Panda with 4s instead of A's. I'm not going to spell that out. If you can't figure it out, then
I put Shandapan on this.
sorry for you. But yeah, I that's my gamer tag. That's what I am on TikTok. Not that I really have any videos. I'm working on that. But yeah, that's it. That, and sometimes I get to hang out with you clowns.
He Who is Steve, you did something new about the days of the week.
I did. I just released a video
Monday.
today as we are filming this. I released it today, and it's called "Why Is It Wednesday?" And it answers that question very quickly, and then says, "But you want to know more?" And goes into the history of the days of the week, their names in various cultures throughout history, and I try to make some jokes as well, and some auditory, some visual, and some sexual. So go watch it. I'm on YouTube, and I'll have it out on TikTok in the next week probably.
So is it like, do you go through like the Happy Days theme?
No,
Why not?
because I hate Ron Howard,
Okay, that's fair. So does Ron Howard.
but I love Clint.
Oh, Clint Howard's great.
What a wholesome boy.
So all these chickens.
I am the Imaginary Nomad, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram with a 1. I'm not going to be live for a while, so don't even bother. I did buy a new horror game, which has great reviews, and I want to stream it, but gotta get my work done.
Was ist das?
Can't play unless my homework's not done.
What's
so,
the game?
you'll have to follow me over at twitch.tv/Imaginary Nomad.
Follow you.
Or support me over at patreon.com/Imaginary Nomad. Like such great patrons like He Who is Safe.
I patron.
Don't
and
look
figure
at me
out
like that.
where we're going. Thank you, everybody. This stream of Botch was brought to you by the Patreon producers. The OG Lone Ranger, Big Jim, The Knuck, Lord Chronic, Skinner, B-Mail, Disgruntled Furniture, Quiz Wisdom, Zikori, Scabby Goose, Lost Limey, Old Swamp Bass.
Wow.
We got new that's why we did the shot in the beginning. We have a new executive
I
producer.
know who it is. You want me to tell you?
It's Skylar. It's Skylar, eh?
Skylar H.
Skylar H.
That's right.
And also,
Oh, God-King Sh4nd4p4nd?
no, just Shanda Panda.
You ain't no God-King no more.
I know. Sorry.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and supporting us. And we'll see you at the movies.
Bye.
Bye.